have actually written my notes. I scribbled it down on a post-it. I have only a couple of thoughts really to share with you when it comes to how do you really not care so much about what other people think about you. And that is how you start living unapologetically. When you say be unapologetically you, it's you embracing who you are, making choices and decisions that feels good and right to you without caring so much about what other people would say or would think about your choices, right? Without feeling the need to explain yourself or to justify your actions, to justify your choices. So that's what it means to live unapologetically. But just because it requires not caring way too much about what other people think does not mean that you absolutely not care about other people. So to not give a fuzz, let's just use that word, it only means that you have other values that are more important to you, or your values, your belief system, or there are certain relationships in your life that are more important to you. All right. So it's not true that you are totally incapable of caring and considering other people. It's just that you know where your priorities are. You are clear about what is more important to you. Let's give you an example. For example, in my own life, in my own journey, there came a point wherein I had to choose between living with my mother and having my own place. Of course, it's a no-brainer if you're a grown woman, right? Or man, it's a no-brainer. You have to have your own place. But back in the Philippines, the culture is not so much that you have to feel pressure to leave home and be on your own. But at some point, and I would say at that particular time in my life, it was a little bit prematurely. I do believe that my mom at that time did not expect me to come to that decision at that time, but I had to come to that decision even though so many people were telling me, you shouldn't be leaving your mom at this time. She needs you, or something like that, or you need her. Either way, but I came to a decision to get my own place at that time when the situation did not seem like it was an ideal time. But I made that decision because what mattered most to me at that particular time was my peace. And I say that you've heard me share this many times in my previous broadcasts, that I did not have a really good relationship with my mother growing up. We didn't have the ideal mother-daughter relationship, but I love my mother dearly. I love her so much, especially now that I am, have become the woman that I am right now. I have grown to understand a lot of the things that I failed to understand, about her, about why, she made certain choices and why she behaved a certain way in the past. But all that aside, I made that decision to leave because at that time we were having too much conflict between each other. Like, we would fight almost every day. We would argue almost every day, and we resorted to yelling at each other. And there came a point wherein I realized I do not want this. I really can't do this anymore. I can't be doing this every single day of my life. And I was already a mother at that time. I believe I was pregnant with my daughter. And at that time, my health and my baby's health, my daughter in my belly, her health, our well-being together mattered more to me at that time. So it's not that I didn't care when I made my decision, even though there was so much opposition. There were so many people who did not agree with my decision at that time. And I don't have to go into the details of why it was not ideal for them, or at least in their opinion, it wasn't ideal that I left. But at that time, it was not because I did not care about my mom. It was just that I had my priorities. So that's one example of making decisions and choices without feeling the need to explain yourself, to other people. I did not give a fuzz at that time what other people would think. Of course, I considered their their advice, their opinions. But at the end of the day, it was my choice. It was my life. It was my health. It was my baby's health. I made the decision. I made the choices that I made. And at that point, when I made the decision, I had zero fuzz about what people would say, or how they would react, or how they would accept or receive my decision. I did not give a fuzz. That's all. Another good example of not caring about what other people think, but at the same time still, having the heart to care, but not to the point that you sacrifice your own future or your own well-being. A good example that I would like to share with you was that of Brazilian author Paulo Coelho. If you do not know yet, when he was younger, in his younger years, his parents did not agree or did not approve of him pursuing writing, right? And so when he wanted to pursue writing, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his parents were in the finance, I think accounting or medicine, but some other profession, and they expected Paulo Coelho to pursue the same kind of profession in the same kind of field, and he did not want that. That's not where his passion lies. So he pursued writing, and I believe that twice in his life, his parents sent him into a mental institution, because they believed that he was out of his mind. He was crazy to be pursuing something that they did not approve of, right? But, long story short, we all know who Paulo Coelho is, and we all know the books that he wrote. And if he had not pursued his own passion for writing, regardless of whether or not his parents would approve, right? Whether or not his own family would approve, then we would forever be deprived of his genius, right? Because we all know that he wrote The Alchemist, and it was very popular, and it has touched so many lives, so many hearts. It has been translated to multiple languages and has been sold in millions or billions of copies all around the world. And Paulo Coelho is now living his calling, his really living his purpose. And that is a really good example of pursuing something that is more important to you, not because he didn't care about his parents, not because you don't care about your family, not because you don't care about how people would be affected, especially the people in your own circle, of influence, not because you don't care or consider what their feelings would be, or how it would affect them, how it would hurt them, but because something else is more important to you. Something else at that particular time that you're making your decision, something else matters more to you. In the example of Paulo Coelho's life or his story, his passion, or the ability to pursue his passion for writing, was more important to him at that time, or else he would actually really, in fact, go insane, right? So that's what it means to not give so much fuss or not care so much about what other people would think. But it does not mean that just because you're not giving so much fuss about what they would think, that you have zero consideration at all. It doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that you are not afraid to be among the unpopular, You're not afraid to be different, right? To quote Mark Manson, the famous author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K. See, I still give a fuzz about saying that word, right? It's because it is just not in my regular vocabulary to say that publicly. But the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. He said in that book that it does not giving a fuzz doesn't mean indifference. It just means being comfortable with being different. And I second that. I agree. I totally agree. Not caring about what people would say, or not giving way too much fuzz about what people would say about other people's opinion of you, does not mean that you are indifferent or you're a total prick, you're a total jerk, It just means that you are not afraid about being different. You are comfortable about being unique. You are comfortable about the thought of sticking out like a sore thumb. You are comfortable about the thought of having an unpopular opinion, even if you're alone in your opinion, even if you're alone in that thing that you're standing for, right? It doesn't bother you. You're okay with being alone. You're okay with being different. You're okay with being unpopular. You're okay with being unique. You're okay with not fitting in. Because in fact, ladies and gentlemen, you're not supposed to try to fit in. We have very unique abilities. You and I, you are supposed to pursue a very unique calling, and so am I. So it's okay, and that is what it means to not give so much fuss about what other people would say, because not everyone would agree with your choices, not everyone would approve, not everyone would feel good about your choices and your decisions. And whatever it is, whether you're talking about your choice of clothing, your choice of a partner, your choice of a job, your choice of a dwelling place, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is, if you stop caring way too much, putting so much weight on other people's opinion, and just live your life the way you feel you should be living it, the way that feels good and right to you. Remember, last week I pointed out that to live unapologetically, you have to make decisions, make choices that feel good and right to you. It has to be both good and right. It has to feel good and it has to feel right to you. Once you start living your life without so much, a concern for what people would say, would think, it is so liberating, because then you start focusing, channeling in on what really matters to you. And when you are making that your priority, what matters to you, your family, maybe it's your relationship right now, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your job, maybe it's your peace of mind right now, maybe you want to pursue a career that does not really make a lot of money in other people's opinion, but that really makes you happy. It's really where you feel like you're growing, you're really making use of your God-given talent, and that's where you're happiest, and you feel like you are in your genius zone whenever you're pursuing that, that activity or that passion. Then you do that. You do what feels good and right to you, and you don't need to apologize to anybody. So stop apologizing for things that in your heart you are doing your best about. You are doing your best to make decisions about. So stop apologizing, because at the end of the day, when you keep apologizing to people, you're like saying that you need their approval to live your life. It's like you need their approval, their acceptance in order for you to feel good about your life too. No, the heck with that, right? And that's what it means to live unapologetically. You care about yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a, I have to make sure I can give the best of me to you. If I'm not taking care of myself, what good am I to anybody, right? So it is my best expression of love to the people around me to care about me, to make sure that I am living a life that is full of joy and full of peace, right? It is up to me to ensure that I have peace inside and I have joy inside. I'm cultivating that inside. And so you do what you got to do in order to preserve that peace and joy and love. All right? You have to communicate what really is important to you, because you know what? The people who love you truly, unconditionally, would understand. They would always understand, and they would always support you in the same way that you're also always willing to understand and support the people that you love, right? So it goes both ways. People who are not willing to understand you and not willing to accept you, not willing to support you for your decisions and choices, they probably are not supposed to be in your life anyway. But then again, it boils down to what values you are standing for. Okay, so there's a lot of introspection that needs to come into play when you're really trying to explore the subject. What values are you really standing for? Because a lot of people, they say, I am living unapologetically, I'm unapologetically me, I don't give a fuzz about what people say, and then they're rude, they're arrogant, they're inconsiderate. Well, because probably that's their set of values. They value only ego, their ego, and their self-centeredness. It boils down to what you really value in life. So I do hope that you you got a lot of value from this short broadcast, and I thank you so much for joining me. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have for me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again